Okay, let's get you some breaking news now. Veteran lawyer Ram Jethmalani has passed away. Now, remember, he was 95 years old and has passed away, in fact, as we understand, in the national capital. We're still getting some more information, but this is what we know as of now. The veteran lawyer Ram Jethmalani has passed away not too long ago. In fact, former Union Law Minister as well. My colleague Meenakshi Bhanja, our Deputy News Editor, is now joining us on the phone line. Meenakshi, what can you tell us?
Well, Varun, he has been a decorated lawyer, parliamentarian, and also, part of the BJP. Just moments back, news coming in of his passing away, which we are confirming to our viewers at this point in time. He was 95 years of age and was suffering age-related issues for a fair bit of time. We can also confirm to our viewers that his weight had shrunk to 38 kgs. He was having a minimalistic eyesight loss, and that apart, of course, he was ailing for a fair bit of time now, of course, this will be seen in the realm of age-related issues and passing out of natural causes.
Right, and Meenakshi, as you mentioned there, a decorated career himself, both as a lawyer in private practice as well as a union minister. Can you tell us about just charting the course of Ram Jethmalani's rise, because he rose to become one of the most decorated, one of the most respected lawyers in the country?
Well, that's right. He was someone who we had interacted in the Supreme Court till about 6 or 8 months ago. I mean, he was that active, legally speaking. And that apart, he was a decorated parliamentarian as well. He has occupied the position of the law minister in past governments. And of course, he has been known in the recent past for citing his points of views quite vehemently on some very, very pertinent issues, be that the issue of black money, be that the issue of some critical aspects of governance, be that the issue of making his point of view known on certain politicians or certain political aspects of the country. And yes, we have seen him make appearances and argue cases for top-notch, big accused when they have found themselves on a strictly wicket, legally speaking. So yes, this is a passing away out of natural age-related issues, and we are confirming to our viewers that he had been under the weather for some time now here in New Delhi, to the extent that his weight had shrunk considerably. He was experiencing eyesight loss issues, and that apart, yes, of course, this will strike the legal fraternity in particular as a big loss.
Right, and Meenakshi, just for some insight into what Mr. Jethmalani was like in court. He was known to be a very real firebrand lawyer in court, someone who commanded a lot of respect in the courtroom. If you can tell us a few of these high-profile cases that Mr. Jethmalani argued.
Well, absolutely. He was known for his rapier wit. He was known to have instant repartees that were loaded with sarcasm, humor, and sometimes often also with rage. And there were a lot of high-profile cases that he has featured in. Primarily, one of the cases that he will be remembered for, and one of the last prominent cases that he has engaged in as a counsel in the Supreme Court of India has been the petitions pertaining to getting the black money back in India. This was during the time of former Chief Justice of India, Justice Dattu, that Ram Jethmalani would make appearances before the former CJI-led bench in the Supreme Court and really press upon the Supreme Court's intervention to oversee the process of getting back black money back to India. And not just that, he has made several appearances in many courts of law across India, from the Delhi High Court to the trial courts, to the Supreme Court, of course, where it came to the issue of criminal law. He is a noted criminal. He was a noted criminal jurist, apart from being someone who went on to evolve into the role of being a reformer of sorts, or someone who fought for the larger good of society.
Well, that's right. And, Meenakshi is also, in fact, argued some big cases like we've seen with Harshad Mehta and Ketan Parekh in the stock market scam and many others. In terms of his the way he was viewed among the community, can you give us some insight into that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he is someone who has, at one point in time, bailed out several big politicians as well when they have found themselves on a sticky wicket. In particular, his affiliations were there for BJP, and so much so that he was held in very, very high regard by even current BJP party president Amit Shah. One small example of this is a story that he had broken exclusively on Mirror Now as to how the current BJP party president Amit Shah had apologized to Ram Jethmalani for the expulsion that had happened at one point in time of Mr. Ram Jethmalani from the BJP. And this apology had come by despite the current BJP party president Amit Shah not being at the helm of the parliamentary council of the BJP, which had gone ahead and expelled Ram Jethmalani earlier on. But despite that, a formal apology application drawn and signed by Amit Shah and Bhupinder Yadav was submitted in the local Patiala House Court, which was accepted by Ram Jethmalani, and that apology over his expulsion had come by. So that's a clear sign of the regard that he was held in, and not just by the current BJP party president, by a lot of other eminent opposition leaders as well, from the likes of Lalu Prasad Yadav to DMK's Kanimuri to A. Raja. We've all seen with our own eyes very close interfaces being exchanged between several of these political stalwarts and what we in the legal fraternity have viewed as a Bhishma Pitama of the legal practice in India.
Well, that's right. And, Meenakshi, if we can just talk a little bit more about, the issue of black money, because he was, then at the forefront. He found himself at odds with the government as well on the issue of black money and what the government was doing to actually bring that money back from these tax havens, Meenakshi?
Well, yes, as we had just been telling our viewers as to how the issue of black money was one of the major litigations that in the recent past Ram had engaged in before CGI Dattu's bench in the Supreme Court. And he would have several run-ins in the government councils in the pursuance of that matter. On earlier occasions, there was a lot of dissatisfaction during the aspect of arguments in the Supreme Court. He would express saying that the government is not doing enough to get black money back. But of course, legally, that was one of the arguments that he took in the Supreme Court, which brought the issue under so much scrutiny, which brought the issue under so much mainstream focus, because Ram Jethmalani was presenting himself for daily hearings in the case and really arguing it out and giving the government a tough time. So it was just one of those litigations where till the very end, fag end of his career, he was appearing. And, he would not hesitate to make appearances in the Supreme Court till the very end. I mean, I distinctly remember bumping into him into the corridors of the Supreme Court when he was about 93, 92 years of age, and as a matter of fact, on two occasions, he has even spoken to Mirror Now on several contentious issues. For example, the recent most interview that he had given to Mirror Now was pertaining to the extent of governor's powers, in the context of the governor giving Yediyurappa a long time and a long rope to to prove his majority on the floor of the House. Even that was slammed by him on camera for our network.
Right. Stay with us, Meenakshi. I've got Amit Khemka, senior lawyer, who's also joining us on the phone line. Mr. Khemka, how do you view Mr. Jethmalani's passing? Because he was, ultimately one of the stalwarts of the fraternity. How do you remember him?
See, when I met him for the first time, he was already 80 plus. And I met him around 9:30 in the morning. And he had played 2.5 hours of badminton by that time. I actually cannot forget that sight of him. He was in his white shorts and white T-shirt after playing badminton, full of sweat and full of energy. He was talking like a boy who had just come out of the sports ground. And that energy probably was what made him what we remember him as. He was always full of energy. He was always a sportsman, even in the courts. He never hesitated in giving out what he thought. He was never afraid, and he was very, very helpful to everybody. He was very respectful to everybody. Even when he was, I joined profession 35 years ago, and I remember Jethmalani as the topmost criminal lawyer of the country, even at that time. So probably that energy and that honesty of him, what made him what Mr. Jethmalani was.
Right, Mr. Khemka, thanks so much for joining us on that story here. Mr. Ram Jethmalani, former Union Law Minister in the Vajpayee government, has in fact now passed away, sadly, at the age of 95. Early this morning, in fact, Mr. Jethmalani, as Meenakshi pointed out, had been suffering from age-related ailments and passed away this morning. So tributes are being paid to Mr. Jethmalani from across the country, from the legal profession, from the political profession as well, where Mr. Jethmalani was a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party. He was a member of parliament as well. In fact, involved in many high-profile cases, one of the topmost, if not the leading criminal defense lawyer in the country. And in fact, this is we now, in fact, got news tragically that he's passed away at the age of 95.